Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. It shouldn't come as any surprise to anybody. When I come into the studio, I will do 3, 4, 5 recipes in one day, and I'll shoot all day and get a whole bunch done. Today I'm doing the setup and prep for some fermented dry cured sausages. And I've come to the point in the day where I've done a bunch of them and I've got this much pork belly left. And I didn't want to just do something else with it. I thought I'm on a roll with the sausages. Let's continue making sausages. So I'm going to take some of this dry cured beef loin. I'm going to cut a little piece off. I need about 1,200 grams. This has been in the dry ager for just about 28 days now. And it's looking pretty good. So about 1,200 grams. Let's cut off there and see where we end up. So, what does it look like inside? First look, it's looking pretty good. It hasn't aged a whole lot. Smells fantastic. Okay, so this will go back into the dry ager, and I'll turn it over. It goes, and so I'll just trim this up and get it ready for the grinder. I'm just going to trim off the fat, actually. I'm going to leave the pellicle because I think that's going to add quite a bit of flavor. So I'm going to cut this into a few steaks and then get it into the grinder. Feed this beef through the grinder and the pork belly too. And just to get the last little bit of meat that hasn't been ground through here yet, I just take some of what has already been ground, put it through a second time. It's not going to overgrind it. Don't worry about that. And it's just so much easier than trying to stick bread through and then getting bread in your mix, which I don't really want. So whatever's left in here now has already been ground. I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to clean up the grinder, clean up my area, and come back in a moment with all of the spices, and we'll move on to the next step. And make sure you stick the meat in the fridge while you're cleaning up. Keep it cold. Okay, time to mix up the meat and mix in the spices and the curing agents. So I'm going to use a stand mixer because it's really quick. If you don't have a stand mixer, you could do this by hand, no problem. I'll get the meat and the fat into the mixing bowl. And then onto the stand mixer with the paddle attachment. And we'll just mix this up until the meat starts to come together and get a little bit sticky. Now, all of the sausage recipes that I've done up to this point have been quote-unquote traditional or based on traditional recipes. I've looked at dozens of recipes in each case, in textbooks, in cookbooks, in manuscripts, and then, took away the outliers and did sort of an average to start with as a starting point to see what I liked and how I could change it to suit my taste. In this instance, I had like 10 minutes this afternoon to say, can I make another sausage, and what am I going to do? So, most of these ingredients are based on sort of the standards. There's a certain amount of salt that you should be using in order to dry cure a sausage. So I'm going to put that in now. This is the Instacure number 2 or Prague powder number 2. I'm going to put that in. Of course, it's not strictly necessary, but it's a really good thing to have as a safety net, especially when you're first starting out. Next in is dextrose, and dextrose is a simple sugar or a monosaccharide. It's not going to make the sausage sweet, but it is going to help these bacteria grow really quickly. It's the food they need. They're going to eat that up. Next is dry milk powder, and this is non-fat dry milk powder. That goes in. It's a binder, and it's going to help the sausage pull together really nicely, and also it retains a little bit of the moisture, even though we're going for a dry cure sausage. Okay, my stand mixer is starting to groan, so I'm going to add the water to loosen it up a little bit. There we go. And the starter culture. Okay, now for the flavoring. And I just went down to the basement, down to the giant spice cupboard that I have in the basement, and I looked at what I had. And there's a spice company in Canada that I've done a lot of work for. If you're Canadian, you'll recognize this bottle. I'm not going to say their name because it's not important. I've done a lot of work for them. I've shot a lot of corporate content for them and stuff for their website. And they leave stuff behind. And I use their spices. If you've seen a bowl of spice sitting on the table here, it's probably their spice. They've also left me with a bunch of spice mixes, and that one's called Tex-Mex. So, I'm just going to throw it in. I'm going to see what happens. I know this is a known quantity, and I know that sometime down the road, I'll probably use my own spice mix if this works out. So I'm going to put that in. Going to let it mix until the meat becomes really sticky. Okay, I think that's mixed together. It's really sticky, so let's get it off of the mixer. Now you want to mix this until it's nice and sticky, and I believe I'm there. There's a test, you put it on the bottom of your hand. You've heard me say this. If it doesn't fall off, it's done. Eventually you just realize what it looks like and you don't really need to do that test. So I'm going to put it back in this container, stick it back in the fridge while I get the casings and the stuffer ready. Okay, the smaller dry ager is set up down here in our brewery. It's just getting so crowded out in the cooking studio, I moved it to the brewery. I'm going to hang these sausages in here with the others. Now the idea is they're going to hang in here for 3, maybe 4 weeks. The amount of time that they hang isn't the important factor. The important factor is you need them to lose around 30% of their weight before they're ready. And that sort of determines their doneness. That 30% loss in water weight is what makes them safe without needing to cook them. Now, times, temperatures, and humidities will all be in the description box below the video with the recipe. We'll check in on these in a couple of weeks and look at the mold growth, and I will see you for tasting when they're done. So, taco sausage. This ought to be good. Let's see how this worked out. Okay, let's see. Tough one to get through. That looks really good.
Hi, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
Hi, friends. What are we tasting today?
So, taco spice. Remember when we used to do those shoots for a certain spice company? Mm-hmm. So they left behind a bunch of spices. I had it down in the basement. And one of them is a taco spice mix. And I thought, let's just throw some taco spice mix in a sausage and ferment it and see what happens.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
There you go. Let's give it a try. Oh.
Sausage is funny because it takes a while
Yeah.
to release all the flavors in sausage. And right there, it's like, and there's that taco flavor.
At the very end.
Yeah.
So at the very beginning, what I get from this is the flavor of the fermentation, right? Because it is a fermented sausage. The taco seasoning doesn't come in until the very end, which tells me I could have
Put a lot more
put
flavor in.
a lot more in order to match, not overcome the fermented flavor, but match that fermented flavor. So this one, it's not a bad sausage.
It would be odd on a charcuterie. Like you'd have to match it with the right type of charcuterie,
with the right
right?
stuff,
It's not
yeah.
as, I wouldn't put pickles with it.
This was
the way
also
I might with more traditional sausage.
This was also beef, a mix of beef, and so I think I needed more. I definitely needed more of the spice to overcome. But you know what? It's not bad. I like it.
It would actually be kind of super fun on a pizza.
It would be.
But you'd change up the flavors you put in the pizza.
Okay, so I think it's a good starting point. And this is
Not a winner yet.
Not a winner yet, but it's something
Great potential.
For a first go, not knowing how much to put in, just winging it completely. I think it's okay.
There you go.
And so it's something that I would come back to and play with the flavors and the spicing. Maybe make my own taco spice mix or use the taco spice mix that we make at home ourselves. Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.